Welcome to Answers for Living. I am Pastor Dave from Avondale Presbyterian Church in Avondale, Pennsylvania. Today we're looking at the Lord's Prayer, specifically the phrase, "Forgive us our debts." There's a story in Matthew about a man who owed a king 10,000 talents. Now, those that heard the phrase 10,000 talents gasped because there was no way that this guy could ever pay back that king. That was an astronomical amount. The king decided to throw the man into debtor's prison until he could pay back every cent. Well, the man begged and said, "Give me more time. I promise to pay you back." Well, for whatever reason, the king felt pity and forgave the man this astronomical debt. Later, the man who had been forgiven ran into a friend who owed him 100 denarius, which is 100 days' wages. Now, that's a lot of money. And he demanded payment, and the man couldn't pay. And the man said, "I'm throwing you into prison." And the man begged for mercy and promised if you give him a little bit more time, he'll pay back every penny. But the man who was owed 100 days' wages had that debtor thrown into prison until he could pay him back. Well, the servant of the king reported what happened to the king. And the king had the man he had forgiven that astronomical debt. He had him brought to him. He chewed him out for not forgiving the 100 days' wages, and then threw the man into debtor's prison, where he would be tormented for the rest of his life. Then Jesus said, "So it will be with you if you do not forgive your brother from your heart." Now, we all want daily forgiveness from God. But God says, if you don't forgive people who offend you, I will not forgive you, and you'll be tormented by the demons of unforgiveness till you do forgive. I have a doctor friend who treats people who are in psychiatric units because of deep, deep depression. He said to me, 90% of his patients could go home cured if they would just forgive. In the first church I pastored, a man who was in his early 50s came to me and said, "I only come to church on Sunday morning, and don't you dare ask me to do anything in this church. I will not serve on any boards or any committees. I won't do anything." And so I said, "Why?" And he said to me that he worked for a Christian organization and they accused him of something that he didn't do, and he lost his job. And then he said, "If that's the way you treat a servant of God, I don't want to serve God anymore." The bitterness caused by his unforgiveness had robbed him of the joy of serving the Lord. Now, I know people who have stopped reading their Bibles, have stopped praying, they've stopped going to church, and they've stopped serving the Lord. The reason is very simple. Someone hurt them deeply, and instead of forgiving the person from the heart, they internalized their anger. Bitterness set in, and God got shoved to the back of their life. Forgiveness releases the person who sins against us from my right to get even. Forgiveness releases the person from my right to make them feel bad or to bring up their offenses against them. But it also sets me free to go on with my life and keep my relationship with God fresh and vital. Are there people we need to forgive? If so, remember this: forgive us our debts is contingent on forgiving others their debts against us.